In this week's video, I'm gonna take a toy car from Ikea and some Duplo blocks and put them together. Hey everybody, it's Adrian from Zanz's Toys. And first off, elephant in the room, obviously I somehow dropped my beard. It's temporary, I had to have a tooth pulled, and the oral surgeon required me to shave for the sake of gas mask. But it'll come back. What I actually want to talk about is this adapter piece that I made. We have a few of these cars from Ikea. They're the Lillebo, apparently. And they're a set that comes with a few bases and various parts that you put in to have a different front and a different back. So that's all cool, but our son pretty much immediately lost all the things that go into the car bases. But he really loves playing with Duplo, like most kids his age. So what I did is I designed an adapter. So what we have here is, on the top, we have Duplo compatible pegs that work just fine. So snaps in just great. And on the bottom, we have a different type of peg that slots into the holes here. So I can put those in, and I can put in another one. And now I have, this car is now a nice Duplo base for building. So let's talk about how I made it. So I thought this was going to be a really quick project, and it didn't take too long. I found this really great OpenSCAD library that allows you to make Duplo and Lego compatible parts. So I thought it would mainly be just a question of using that library to make a 3x2 brick, and then adding some holes at the bottom to accommodate pegs. I knew I wanted to make it in two parts because the pegs were, if I tried to print that as one piece, they'd end up being printed vertically one way or another. And vertical parts that are tall and thin are pretty much guaranteed to break. So I knew the pegs needed to be printed horizontally, which necessitated having two separate parts. I went into OpenSCAD after I installed the library and whipped up a 2x3 part, but there were a couple things that I wasn't super happy about. One, it was very squared off and had a lot of sharp edges, which is not ideal. And it also didn't play too well when I started doing additional Boolean operations on it to make the bottom flat and add two holes. After playing with it for a little bit, I decided to just export what I had so far and bring that in as a reference object into FreeCAD. So there's no magic here. I just opened up FreeCAD, brought in the STL, and used that as a reference to make some additional sketches. The geometry is pretty simple, just a box really, with some pegs sticking out. So I made one sketch, padded that up to give myself the body, and then made another sketch with the 6 pegs. So I dimensioned the outer radius, and then the inner I just generated by having a set wall that was a nice multiple of 0.4, because that's the nozzle width of most hobby 3D printers. Once I had all that, I just added some holes at the bottom to accommodate the pegs and printed it out. There were a couple things I had to iterate on. One was the peg size itself. I printed it out a little too long at first, and that made the adapter piece stick out a little bit too high. The other thing was the diameter of the pegs. So when I first printed it out, it was a little too loose, and if you turned it over, the blocks would just fall off. After making the outer diameter just a touch bigger, I printed it out again, and I had a nice snap. So yeah, I printed out the pegs and the body separately, used a little super glue to stick the pegs into the holes, and that was it. Yeah, so there it is. I'm really happy with the way this came out, but there is one issue, in that bricks can go here or here, but not here. And the reason being, if I have two of these pieces directly touching, then I can, in fact, get a brick in. So that's fine, right? But it just so happens that that's not quite the separation between these two holes. So if I actually put this in the car, what we end up with is a slight gap. So that's just a sort of an unfortunate byproduct of the sizing of the holes here relative to Duplo bricks. I could fix it. I'd have to move these pegs a little bit closer to the center, and that would have to propagate to the other pegs. So I'd have to move all 6 pegs a little bit in closer to the center. And that'd be okay, but what it would end up doing is it would make this asymmetric. So it would go in one way and work, but the other way it wouldn't. that was kind of overly fiddly to me to have it work in one way and not in the other. So I ended up just kind of making my piece with, you can build off either side separately. And the nice thing about that too is the original toy, if we ever find the parts, had separate pieces for the front and the back as well. So I think it's actually kind of fun to say that you build up the front part of the car and you build up the back part of the car. So overall, really happy with this. I think my son's gonna enjoy it. So that's about it. If you want to get the files and make these for yourself, if you've got Duplo bricks and Ikea cars at home, I'll have a link to the free files down below. And if you want to see more videos like this on toy making, toy design, and toy hacks, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks a lot.